Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We know in the audience we have many of our clients, hopefully many people that have been using our server-side solution ETL Plus. So you'll be seeing the latest and greatest, a lot of cool stuff to show. We also see some of our partners and many new prospects. Some of you, we don't know your technical knowledge, and we hope and believe the first at least 15 minutes of this presentation is going to be knowledgeable for no matter what your high level knowledge of BI and data warehousing and whatnot. So hopefully the first 15 minutes is pretty good for everyone. And then we'll dive right into the more details of the new release, and probably only those that are more our clients already or more BI data warehousing people really appreciate the novelties. My name is Johnny Girardi. I'm DataSelf founder and CEO. I've been helping mid-sized organizations with better reporting and business intelligence for over 20 years. I'm going to be leading the presentation. I have with me Zach. Please introduce yourself.
I'm the comedic relief for today's webinar. I've also been in BI for quite a few years. I started out in a wholesaler and fell in love with reports and dashboards, and then been working with Johnny for quite a few years. And so I'll be taking over some small parts and maybe jumping in occasionally.
Zach is one of our Yoda team members. He can move data with his mind. So he'll be here to share some of his thoughts. All right, let's get started. So the agenda today, we're going to spend the first 10 minutes talking about the vision of this release, the main news on the architecture, and then we'll go into what's new. And we should take about 40 minutes peeling the onion and showing a lot of the novelties. So vision-wise, primarily this is what we do at the end of the day. The far left, companies have data sources, sometimes many data sources. DataSelf, we are 30-something people, and we have more than 20 digital systems that we use daily to operate DataSelf. And quite often, you need to make decisions out of the systems, and without a business intelligence platform, it's a lot of guesswork, a lot of Excel, a lot of manual processes. We call the reporting challenges. The data is not consistent. You cannot have a lot of KPIs because it's a lot of work. You don't know how to do it. It's too time-consuming. Some reports take too long to run. Nowadays, too long to run is usually more than 10 seconds. Many business users don't wait. So, reports must run in seconds no matter what you're running. In overall reporting, no matter what tool you use, if you're using just the ERP, the CRM, the payroll, pretty much is a lot of work, a lot of manual processes to get the reports and KPIs to decision makers. So that's usually the pains that companies have that they come to DataSelf. We add the ETL Plus in what's called the DFT layer, dimension, fact, and time, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into those two components. At the end of the day, we bring data warehousing, automated data modeling, thousands of business insights that plug and play that you can customize, and you can choose what we call the lipstick. Where do you want to see your metrics and your dashboards? You want to use Power BI? Do you want to use Excel? Do you want to use the Fabric framework, the Tableau? There's even other tools, Click and whatnot. So we have a lot of things to help the lipstick shine better. At the end of the day, we tell as a decision maker, you have your data. Today, you have your challenges. With DataSelf, we help you get what's called the 360-degree visibility out of your business. No matter your data source, no matter your KPIs, decision makers can have access easy and quick. We have the single version of the truth, and also the single point of the truth, are ways where you can manage your main metrics in the truth in a single point. And when the reports and KPIs are running, they pull the data from the single point, so you can guarantee two reports, they're always going to be showing the same numbers if they talk about the same KPIs. If you don't have this, quite often you go to a meeting, two reports, you look and they're not matching, and then you don't trust anything. With the DataSelf, pretty much a lot of the automation of reports and dashboards are done by the system. A lot of manual processes are automated, streamlined. We guarantee that reports run in seconds, no matter how much data you have, how complicated, multi-company, multi-currency, yada, 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 doesn't matter. Reports should render data in seconds, bring data together, if it drill down, AI-driven, nowadays everyone talks about AI. We absolutely support extensive layers of AI, and today we'll talk a little bit about the AI functionality. But I also tell people it's not only about AI, it's all about what's powering the foundation that AI can leverage. So we'll talk a lot about the foundation that AI is taking advantage of. If you have any of these systems here, this whole platform kind of plugs and play in hours. So we accelerate dramatically reports and dashboards and modeling. If you don't have the systems, you have other ERPs, CRMs, and whatnot, you learn today that we also accelerate that journey. So high level, this is what we provide. This is pretty thick. I'm not going to spend too much on this. I'm not going to go through all the things here. I'm just going to tell what's new with 2509. So the first thing is on the bottom left here. We have now a much bigger list of no-code sources. And now there are more than 400 sources you can bring data to your BI with no code. What about it? Well, if you don't have this, quite often you're trying to bring data from your source, you're going to be writing APIs left and right. And writing API means programming, a lot of time. And the person who wrote, keep the person around, because if that person leaves, and now you need to maintain that API code, good luck. So the good news is with DataSelf new framework, there's a lot of sources. There is zero code. You don't need to hire programmers to do BI and to do reports and analytics. So that's a big novelty, a big library. I don't know anyone else that lists so many. I'm sure there are some others, but it's impressive. Second, we finally released our beta version with the web user interface. We've been dreaming about the web UI for a decade. It took us 3 years of development, lots of sweat and tears, and we thought about what do we data geeks need on the web to make our lives better. There are a ton of data problems. Can you help us make it better? Don't make it flashy, don't make it cute. I don't care about being cute. I don't care about being flashy. Help me do my job better. That's been the vision of this web UI.
Or you don't have to remember the 5 steps to get into the server that you had to work on before, right? Which is a giant pain in the butt. So that's one thing I've really loved about playing around with the beta version of this ETL web is that I don't have to go through 3 VPNs and know the names of the server that I've got to get into in order to even start working with ETL Plus.
Data modeling, yep. Yeah, there's a lot of benefits on the web. And the API also will allow those of you who are more sophisticated with APIs to be able to leverage ETL processes and services using the API layer. So a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline here. Finally, everyone's talking about AI. Absolutely, we are heavily investing in AI. And it's not a shallow AI. We are actually integrating LLMs, the big LLMs out there, and creating this layer using our own AI training database to help you, our clients in our market, to be able to do data modeling in BI, knowing your specific data model, knowing the kind of data model around your industry and your ERP and your CRM and your payroll, so you can more quickly, when a decision maker asks you for a new data problem, instead of you starting to figure out, okay, what table should I pull? How I want to link this? What are the keys? The AI is not gonna kill your job, because there's a lot of things that the AI doesn't do it yet, and hopefully never will. But there's a lot of mechanical, time-consuming tasks that the AI answers in seconds. And as you ask more questions, they keep on giving you answers that should accelerate dramatically the time to handle data problems. I tell people that right now, nobody knows what's going to happen with AI. It's going to be killing us. It's going to be the best of the world. We really don't know. I am on the positive camp. When I see it, there's all sort of, problems and frictions, so people are going to lose jobs, true. But oh my God, there's so many pains out there that nowadays there is no bandwidth to solve them in so many different industries and science and medicine. Well, my problem is behind the analysis. In my industry, there's a lot of benefit, a lot of companies in pain that AI is going to help. And we are definitely making huge investment. How can AI help us and help you to do, data geek things more efficiently? So big investment and a lot of benefits coming out of this. But again, as I mentioned before, many vendors, they only talk about AI, everything's AI. Well, yes, AI is a big part of the value, but without the rest, without the things that do the job, AI, to me, AI is an additional tool to the tool set with some very tangible values that when added to the whole tool set, there is an amazing value. So in this presentation, it's not going to be only about AI. AI has a portion, but it's a lot about other things that will help AI be more successful. Having said that, as promised, about 10 minutes of introduction, we're going to go now into the tech dive. And the very first example is the only example I'm going to dive into the AI. I'm going to be showing an amazing use case of how AI helps. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the remaining time talking about other features that are required for the AI to do the magic. So I'm going to jump into the first AI-powered example. And I'm going to start with the use case and then show how AI helps. So before this new release comes out, actually about a year ago, we deployed DataSelf for a new client. And on the first day that the CFO logged to their DataSelf system, the CFO went to cash flow projection. CFOs love cash flow projection. And back then, a year ago, when the CFO opened the cash flow projection and was showing cash on hand today, money coming in from receivables, money going out from open payables, cash flow projection of the payroll, and he could see, this projection of the cash flow for the next few days based on those data points. And then the CFO said, well, this is all amazing. Out of the box, day one, a cash flow projection that he was doing a bunch of things in Excel right on day one. But he said, I need purchase order in this cash flow projection because I'm going to be receiving them in the near future. They become a bill with terms. And then I know that in days, weeks, and months, purchase order should be adjusting my cash flow projection. A year ago, this problem meant the CFO called the business analyst that got the DataSelf system. Can you please add cash flow projection, purchase order to my cash flow projection? And the business analyst, my God, I know we just got it deployed. I just got the user license. I don't know I know nothing. So they called us, explained what they wanted. The business analyst was still kind of young to the whole thing. We have to bring one of our people to discuss what they want out of the cash flow projection, make a proposal, eventually submit it to the CFO. The CFO liked it, thought the cost was amazing, approved, eventually they paid us. And pretty much, make a long story short, in about a month after the purchase order was added and the CFO was happy, but involved about a month in business discussions and money going back and forth and yada, yada, yada. That was 1 year ago. If the CFO, this use case had happened now, once all of this framework were to be released, I'm going to show you what would happen. So let me stop here to share the screen. And let me switch gears here. Give me a second. Let me find my monitors. So when the
just get prepared to be blown away here.
Well, let's check it out. So the CFO called the business analyst called us. Hey, how can I do this? Right? How can I get cash flow projection? We're going to tell, well, have you logged to ETL Plus? No, I haven't yet. So we're going to tell, go to this website, log in with your credentials, and just ask the AI engine the question and see what happens. See if you figure it out, right? Just give it a shot. I'm sure some will not figure it out, right? But let me, now that I'm starting to share my demo, I'm going to remove my video, so I'm not going to take real estate from this presentation, because Zach, if you don't mind also removing your video, so maybe they have
Yeah,
more.
for sure.
Thank you. So we told the person can go to DataSelf ETL, log in with your Azure credentials. It's authenticated by Microsoft, guarantees that you log in, and then, as I mentioned, click on the AI button and see if you can figure it out. So they're gonna log into this page, and they're gonna look around and, okay, hey, there's an AI button here, ETL AI. Okay, I click the AI button. How can I help you? And then you just write, add purchase order to my cash flow projection. You just ask the question in plain English. Now, caveat, is not any business analyst that will understand the answer. You have to have some kind of knowledge about modeling and stuff like that. But if you'd have this basic knowledge, the AI will check what your DataSelf system has, all the tables, all the modeling, all your source system, what you have and what it doesn't have. So contextually, to your metadata, not your transaction data, to your metadata, it's going to see what you have. It's going to make an assessment. And if the solution is within the AI engine, pretty much in seconds, you get an assessment. It will find where the cash flow projection is being modeled in your DataSelf, and it's going to give you sometimes a lot of the answer in seconds. You still need to know how these things work. We tell people 90% of the work is done. You just ask the question, you read the answer, and you follow sometimes the breadcrumbs or the whole answer, and you are almost there. In this idea of the tool understanding the modeling of your system, your source system, your ERP, if you brought CRM, if you brought payroll, if you have Excel sheets with your budget, whatever it is, whatever's in DataSelf, the AI will look at this metadata. You will look on the internet for whatever is knowledge base around your question. If you have Acumatica or NetSuite or Dynamics or Sage, it will use the specific knowledge around your metadata in the whole internet to answer those questions. So again, if that CFO has called, was done this in the future, and their business analyst was kind of experienced with this kind of thing, the answer will be done potentially in hours instead of taking about a month.
Are you going to show the actual SQL statement? You
Uh,
should show the SQL statement. It's pretty cool.
the whole thing?
Well, yeah, because so the original cash flow projection would have been the top part of that. Maybe scroll up a little bit.
So this would be the cash flow projection is right here.
So the original cash flow projection, I don't know who on the call knows SQL, but the top section is like what you've got on hand today, cash on hand today. The next section is payroll projections. And then if you go into the ETL plus AI.
Yeah, I already closed it, but
Oh, yeah. What it did is at the bottom, it added the SQL statement for pulling in purchase order header and line level details into a new union in that statement so that your cash flow projection would have this additional module mixed in with everything else that's already in there. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
I mean, I know I'm a data geek, but that's pretty cool.
You gotta see to believe it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah, this is what Zach is saying, to actually show me what the result is. So here,
Yeah.
you see that AI is taking this section here, which is actually, what is the PO right here? The PO section, and is understanding the aliases used in the regular modeling, is understanding the calculations, how to come up, understand a lot of the filtering. And as I mentioned, 90% of adding the modeling is right here in the AI answer.
Yeah, I mean, so right there in the where statement, getting rid of the canceled records, only showing the complete or not showing the completed ones, the line type is not null. I mean, those kind of filtering things get you to the actual records you want to see, and that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's sick.
Yeah. There are a lot of examples like in AI that it can help. Like, how do you create your primary keys, your foreign keys, how to link things, or let's say if you acquired a new business and they have a different ERP system. Let's say you have I don't know Acumatica and then the other system has NetSuite, and you need to bring the NetSuite data to Acumatica or vice versa. A lot of the answers of how to blend data between the two systems, we already have in the DataSelf solution a lot of that modeling pre-done. You don't need AI. You already have intelligent humans that have designed a lot of the modeling between the two, but the AI can help with the details that are not generic. So there's a lot of data modeling ahead of us that the AI functionality is going to make the job of business people, data geeks, more efficient. Anyhow, so this
Yeah,
is
and like you say, in so many podcasts they're talking about it around BI that AI is still going to need clean data and it's going to need the background of good modeling in order to make these kinds of AI changes, right? And so where we've already got the modeling for all these different ERPs and CRMs, the AI is enabled to take it the next step forward in a very quick, efficient manner, which is really cool to see.
Yep. Well, Zach, I'm going to let you know. Let me just see here my agenda. Zach is going to show the desktop, and just before Zach takes the steering wheel here, one of the main differences on the DataSelf desktop, and I'm going to show first, a few of the important new features in desktop, ETL desktop, and then we'll switch to the web UI, the new web UI. But one of the main new features of this platform is that we have detached the ETL UI, the user interface, from the ETL we call the actions, the actual activities, execution of the task that you want, in a way that we call this a completely distributed architecture. It doesn't matter where you are with UUI, if you're using the desktop or if you're using the web, or if you are on a beach, you're using a mobile device. The web UI is the place where the human, the business analyst is doing the modeling changes. When they tell execute this change, make this transformation, make this data refresh, delete this table, this action is executed in a different place. Maybe it's on the same box. If you are like, if the ETL here would be on the box where you have a data warehouse, everything happens inside of the box, sure. But the UI is detached, physically from the execution. So when you tell something, the UI will tell a certain device, whatever the device is, hey, load this table, delete the table, and that device will execute. And because of this detachment between the UI and the execution, because of it, we can now have the web UI anytime, anywhere. You can also do data modeling. With that in mind, Zach.
Nice. I'll just request control real quick.
All right. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so if you have had experience with the original ETL Plus, you're probably familiar with the source objects and target objects and the SQL statement. And you probably are familiar with the fact that certain data sources might need to be refreshed from a specific agent. So let's say that someone on the team has an Excel file that is on their particular computer and we needed to refresh it every day. We might have had an agent on their particular computer in the past. And when you set up the daily refreshes, you'd set up a job, you'd come in into the refresh screen here. And for that particular job, you would set up an agent to refresh it so it would refresh from their particular screen. Well, in the new ETL Plus desktop, all of that is now controlled in this device's settings. So you have a master device that is going to manage this table and this data source are refreshed by that particular agent, agent one. Another is refreshed by the second agent. So we've got three different agents going on here, and the master is controlling all of them. So when you go to select tables in your refresh jobs, you can just select whatever you want to refresh at that particular time of day and at that particular frequency, and it will handle all of that for you now. So we've completely eliminated the headache of having to select agents for which tables need to be refreshed when, which will mean a lot cleaner screen. If I go back here, it will mean a lot cleaner screen in the refresh jobs because everything that you want to refresh nightly will all be in a single job. Everything that you want to refresh hourly, you can put in a single job, and it will just handle which tables need to be refreshed by which agent and when. So that's really cool to me. Here, another feature, as long as we're here, is in the past, we might have wanted to run a job manually, but we didn't want it to be on a schedule. Now we can separate the schedule from enabling the job, and we can run any of the jobs manually. So we can almost eliminate our manual test refresh job because we can run anything that we want manually without having to set it up for a refresh. And let's see, another cool feature. I'm going to go back into here. Inside of the device management, you can change which one is the master. If you know that there's going to be a particular server that will have uptime issues and you don't want to use that as your master, you could switch to a different master. And if you need to add new devices, you can do that. Another thing in here, um, in the advanced, for some of the source systems, let's say sometimes Sage, for instance, might have in a date field that doesn't fit into SQL very well. It doesn't match the needs of SQL Server. And so you are fighting with invalid data, then with these new invalid data features, we can actually continue to process the refresh even if there's invalid data, and then set those invalid records aside so that you can go back and figure out and clean up that data. So if someone an end user puts in a date, for instance, that's in 2999 or something like that for the year, then it will set that record aside, and then you can go in and actually clean up that data so that we've got cleaner data, not just in the data warehouse, but also in the source system. So that's a really cool feature for anyone that is a lover of SQL Server and likes to build stored procedures or triggers or things like that on their tables in the data warehouse. We can also adjust how the refresh happens so that you don't lose those triggers and stored procedures if you build them. So that's another cool feature. Let's see, what else did we want to look at in here? I think that's probably good. Okay, let's go back here and go back into the refresh jobs. Great. And then here we've cleaned up the UI a little bit, and some we've got this weekly working now, right, Johnny?
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, so we have this new weekly option that will allow you to set up like if you wanted to do a full forced load all every single week on certain tables, then you could set that up. Or if you wanted to append records to a table that you're wanting to take snapshots of, let's say you wanted to keep a running history of your on hands every week. You could set it up as an append, and you could set it up for every week. So yeah, those are some of the cool features that I've been enjoying about the new 2025 version. Any other thoughts here, Johnny?
No, I think you covered good stuff for the desktop.
Sweet. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Zach. All
Thank
right.
you.
There's a bunch of stuff on the desktop, but we want to actually use the web as the place to show some of the novelties. So let me just collapse everything here. So this is drums, please. The ETL plus web UI. When you log in, you'll go into your own entity. And if you have multiple entities, you'll be able to access them by this drop down. This is a test box, so there's several here. But again, you can have access to your own or multiple entities. And here at the very top, it gives a little summary or overview of what the ETL process is. You have your data sources. The first step we call usually, you should do just mirroring, bring the raw data to your data warehouse, and we put the yellow color to help you identify in ETL which step is mirroring. The next step is usually if you need to transform the data. And usually when you transform the data, we like to talk about the DFT modeling, the dimensional effect in time, and we'll talk more about that once I go to that presentation step. And eventually the data goes to the external objects, Excel, Power BI, Tableau, and whatnot. And we use the blue color. All of these ETL processes can be run manually, or you can use scheduled jobs to control what to do when. So that's a little overview. When you go to the ETL UI and you expand the data warehouse section, then you'll see the objects that belong to the data warehouse. And as you can see, you have yellow steps, which is usually mirroring steps. And you have the green one, which is where you do transformations or re-imports, as sometimes we do call them, the Z data warehouse, if you're familiar with the old naming convention. And here, when I mentioned before that we now support over 430 sources, that means if you need to add a new connector, you click here, and this is the list on new sources. As I mentioned, there's 400 plus, 430 plus, so if you say, I want to add ADP, or if I need to add Azure something, or if you need to add Zoho, it's pretty much you search, you select one of them, and then depending on the characteristics, you can configure the data source directly on the web UI. And sometimes you have to install the desktop. But there is a very extensive list of no code, meaning you don't need to write APIs and coding to do extraction from those data sources. Now here, I'm looking at a kind of demo environment where I have some Excel files, CRM, data source, e-commerce, an ERP, and payroll. And when I click on any of these groupings, then it will list the actual tables that are already mapped. When you get an out of the box, usually you already got a lot of the tables required to do the work. So right there, you see the tables mapped for your ERP. And if you expand, let's say, what is I have in my customers, when I click the columns, it will show the column names under that table with the format. So very easy to see that information. And if you put the mouse over the question mark, you can see some additional details, the source, the schema in SQL, how many rows that you have in this table, when was the last time you loaded, the load format. So you have a little bit of kind of, metadata telling you information about that particular modeling. Now, if you need to see more details, just like on the desktop, if you click customer, now you have on the right, the metadata high level, the idea of this table, the name, the schema, the source, how many rows, and when you were loaded last time, the refresh type, the columns, the formats, the actual SQL statement. So you have more comprehensive information at your fingertips. And if your SQL statement is very big, you need more space, you can actually collapse the panels. So there's a lot more room. Sometimes you have some very complicated, very long SQL statements. Now you have a lot more room to work with big things. And if you choose, hey, now I want to see another table. When you click another table, it's switched now to look at a different table. What if you want to work with 2, 3, 4, 10 tables open at the same time? Currently was a little bit of a pain in the neck. Now you can say pin this one, so keep it open the next one. So I'll click customer. Now it opens the second one. I'm going to take the customer and drag to my right and pin it. So now I have two of them, and maybe you want to see the SQL statement for both, right? So I have both pinned. Maybe now I need a third one, and I'm going to put the third one down below here, and I'm going to pin it.
Another place that I have used this is working from one data source to another as well. So if you have multiple instances of a data source connected to, let's say you have two different companies that are using the same ERP, and you need to copy statements from the one to the other because you are, or even like a sandbox environment where you are working in a sandbox environment and then you want to roll it out to your production or whatever. This is super handy to be able to copy and paste over from the one to the other.
Yep, good point, Zach. So anyhow, the ability to work with multiple pages open, and you can actually click here, and then you can expand each one of them individually into their own web browser tab. So there's a lot more real estate for those of you who work with complicated data problems. So much easier to work with them. That's a good benefit. Overall, the features that were available on desktop, like if you click on a table, you can delete the table, design the table, duplicate it, preview it, rename it, work on the SQL. Now we also have the concepts of tags, and it's a new feature as well that we believe is going to be amazingly helpful for clients, partners, and ourselves.
I don't know if you can hear me clapping, but I'm trying. I'm
No, I
trying to
couldn't
clap.
hear it. I couldn't hear that, but yes, it's for those of you who do a lot of modeling, being able to attach for every object, for every table, for every SQL table, SQL view, a Power BI data, semantic model, a Tableau, data source, or whatever it is in ETL, if you can tell what tags they belong to, is this a sales, is this object for sales analysis, it's for receivables, it's for GL. You check the boxes for every object, and then you can go later and say, hey, only show me objects, tables, views, and semantic models associated to my receivables, or hide them. I don't want to see them. I only want to see everything else. It will be easy to check the boxes and click show only them or only hide them. So tags will be also pretty helpful to keep sanity. We have some clients that they have thousands of tables in the data warehouse, and every time they have to work through in five of the thousands, it's a lot of work with the tags. We believe it's going to be much. Let's say you can go and select a few tables, right? These tables here, let's say, would belong to a certain tag. You can go over here and click, let's say, SI, and now those four tables belong to that tag. And then next time when you select only SI, it hides everything except these four. So tags, we believe, is going to be super duper helpful for those doing a lot of modeling.
Yeah, and just to make sure everybody understands there too, you can have multiple tags on a table as well. So if you've got something that gets used over and over and over in your ERP of expertise, then you could add multiple tags and they'll continue to show up for whichever tag you're selecting.
Right. We're also going to have metadata of the metadata. Jesus, Johnny, what is metadata? I don't know what metadata is. Now you're telling metadata the metadata. In the BI world, in the data world, there is data and metadata. Metadata is the explanation of the data. You know, what are your customer? What is your customer table? What are the customer columns? You're not looking at your transactions. You're not looking at the individual rows, just the metadata. And many times when you look at a field or a table, you don't know what that's about. And the idea is for you, in the other box will have additional descriptions. What is the status? There's numbers 0, 1, and 2. What do they mean? We're going to be able to write 0 means open, 1 means close, 2 means booked, whatever it is. So we're adding a layer to explain the metadata. So eventually when you ask the AI for something, the AI will look at your tables, at your metadata, the metadata, and more efficiently answer those questions to solve difficult data problems. So metadata is also an amazing new feature that's going to be very helpful. Something that also in the past with the old ETL was a pain in the neck. Let's say, what if you want to do things in group? You know, let's say you select 3 tables and you want to delete them, you want to run them. In the past, you have to do one at a time, you know, run this one, and run this one. Now you just select them, whatever you want, and then you can apply this at the group level. You can apply, you know, delete, freeze them, apply tags together. And if you want to run them, so whatever you selected here, maybe you want to have all of them or just a few, you just select them and you click run, and now it's going to run. And on top of this, we have live log. Live log means as you do executions, automatically it tells you what's happening behind the scenes in that separation between UI and execution. Everything that's been executed in your system, you know, you might have 1, 2, 5, 20 devices, each one handling a different data problem. You know, maybe one server is handling cloud sources, you know, your Acumatica, NetSuite, and your Salesforce. But then you have a proprietary system in one server. Then you have an Excel on a user workstation. And then you have some payroll in a CSV on another computer. No matter what's happening, the live log will tell what's happening behind the scenes in real time. Just like when I select a few tables and I told to run, and they show here those 4 tables were loaded, it shows the time that it took and how the total time is. The live log to me, you know, if you live and breathe with data problems, many times part of your job is troubleshooting why it's doing what I thought it was doing, and maybe you made a misconfiguration. In the live log will help you more quickly identify what's happening based on your commands and whatever is automatic. Zach, do you have any comments about the live log?
Well, for anyone that hasn't been using the log online, I would just show them some of the cool features like the sorting, the filtering, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to first, you know, cover other things, and then if we have time still, because we're already 45 minutes into the webinar, we'll go back to the log. But there's a lot of cool log capabilities on the web. Let me move on. So this is pretty much the mirroring step, the new features in the web with the mirroring step. There's a lot more, but now covering the most important. Let me go to the transformation. The transformation we used to call the Z data warehouse reimports. We're labeling now transformation. Usually you mirror the data first, quickly and efficiently, and then you transform the data. Well, in the transformation, not only is when you do the groupings, the filtering, yada, yada, and all those things, but that's where we have now what we call the DFT modeling. And before I show a little bit here, let me just go to our knowledge base to talk about the DFT. This page here explains the DFT, but ultimately the DFT converts your raw data into dimensions, fact, and time that are source agnostic. What does that mean? We are defining the spot, the single point of truth of everything that you care, let's say your customers. There's a table in the data warehouse called the customer, is the spot for your customer, the single point of truth. And inside of this the customer table, right now you would find a SQL statement pulling customer information from your ERP. So like in this example here, if I click the customer, this would be the SQL statement from one of the ERPs. It brings a bunch of tables together, apply filters, and eventually you get, customer name, customer address, customer ID, customer parent. These fields here, the aliases that feed the reporting layer, the Excel, the Power BI, Tableau, and whatnot, they are well standardized. And if in the future you acquire a new business or you outgrow your ERP, the only thing we need to do is to change the SQL statement in a way that whatever you have changed will still feed the same table name, the same the customer with the same fields. And what's in it is a SQL problem. So if you're combining two companies, you just have to do a SQL statement here that combines the data from your Acumatica and NetSuite. You do a table union, but for Power BI and Tableau, it's still the same, the customer. And then you just do the modeling, the single point of truth behind the scenes, and automatically your reports will not change. So this DFT layer. So this
Oh,
DFT,
Mia, you just muted yourself there for a second.
yeah, I think I muted myself. The DFT layer feeds into what we call the star schema. Star schemas is taking a fact table and putting a bunch of dimensions around. So this we've been doing for a while, but with the DFT is really source agnostic. And what we also have, which is amazing now, there's also the Galaxy schema. Galaxy schema looks a little scary at first, but it's an amazing concept. It's been created for 2, 3 decades. It's been around for a while, but only recently, the past few years, 5 years ish, is when technology in the BI was able to create reporting functionality to handle star schema. What is a star schema? A Galaxy schema is taking your facts, the AP, AR, GL, inventory, sales, project accounting, CRM opportunity, payroll transactions, all the facts, all the detailed transaction is in the middle. And around you have like the planets, the dimensions that are shared many times. Customer, products, your employees, your vendors, ship to, and they are linked to the proper, fact tables. And what does that mean really in reality is now with the Galaxy schema, there are certain data problems that in the past were a nightmare, sometimes impossible to execute. Many of them now are easy. For instance, you can create a report if you're like a distribution company that you choose customers and you can see what calls were placed from the CRM, what opportunities this customer is related to, what opportunities became a sales order, what sales became a shipment, that became an invoice, that became a receivable, that became a P&L line. All of these different data points that before you had to create one report at a time, now all of them can be in a single report because the Galaxy schema puts all of your data together. Not for all the use cases, but there are many, many use cases that in the past would be impossible, like the use case I just told you. And right now, the Galaxy schema make those reports pretty straightforward to put together. So anyhow, the DFT is a layer that the ETL is ingrained in the ETL framework, is AI powered, and is going to make the modeling of the data warehouse into the other reporting tools like Excel, Tableau, and Power BI much more powerful. Zach, you want to complement the DFT pitch?
Yeah, when I started work out of college in a wholesaler like 20 years ago, um, I wanted to be able to see data from different fact tables. I wanted to be able to see like sales orders blended with AR invoices, to get a better picture of what was going on for my customers. And at the time, we had to really mangle together something in access tables, in Microsoft Access tables. And because of the way the technology was back then, it made these monster transaction tables, and we would start a report and then leave and go have lunch and then come back. And by the time we got back, it would finally be open and we could do something with it. It's really amazing to see that the technology has come along to the point now where you can interact with these Galaxy data sources and have it give you results very quickly across all of the different areas of your business. So I can, like you said, you can look at all of your customer data across all the different models or modules of the system. Or if I'm a a product manager and I'm looking at inventory items and I want to see how something is done, I can see everything that's happened with that item. I can see if we brought in enough stock in purchase orders. I can see how it was purchased. I can see the customers how they paid for it in the end. I can see what my costs look like, including some of my GL costs that were not in the original purchase of the item. So it's pretty amazing to see the technology coming along that way and be able to see it quickly.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of problems in the past were a pain in the neck. Nowadays, the Galaxy schema framework, it's mind blowing. I mean, I'm excited with all of these new features with the AI. Some people think, oh, you're going to be out of job. No, my God, there's so many companies in pain nowadays that there's going to be accelerating solutions. I look forward to. But anyhow, let me move forward. Thanks, Zach. We have 7 minutes to cover a few extra topics. External objects. So now that we have the whole data warehouse, with the mirror, the transformation, the DFT layer, in the DFT layer in DataSelf, we already have a lot of the modeling in Power BI, in Tableau, in Excel, and we have thousands of reports and dashboards that kind of plug and play into the DFT, AP, AR, GL, sales, inventory, project accounting, purchasing, sales, CRM. There's a lot of things that plug and play. But how do you handle in these external objects? We're making easier. You can go here to external objects, you click the plus, then you can add, there are cloud scripts where you can run even more processes to transform the data in Python, whatnot. You can run command lines if it's in a Windows environment. You can download CSV. You can add Power BI refresh. You want to refresh your tables in the data warehouse. You want to finish, you want to kick off the refresh of a Power BI semantic model or a Tableau refresh, all synced up. You don't need to kind of schedule things in the ETL and then schedule in a separate schedule the Power BI or Tableau. No, ETL will manage the refresh of the whole thing synchronized. We are integrating a lot of APIs from Power BI, from Tableau to make the integration between the data warehouse layer and the downstream layers, including Excel, much easier. And because we have little time, I'm going to keep it at just that we are automating a lot of the scripting between the processes inside of the ETL to make your life easier. Finally, we have the jobs, the jobs where you manage the what to run when. Like Zach was talking about the desktop. If you go to the job configuration, this is similar to what you have on the desktop. But if you choose the properties, then you can see the weekly schedule. When do you want to run this particular job? It's going to be on Saturday. It's supposed to repeat every 60 minutes for 12 hours. So super easy to configure different schedules. If it's monthly, you can tell it's going to be every month. Or should this only run on the first day of every quarter because it's a financial booklet that you need to email to your board. So you're going to have very granular control of how frequently, also on a monthly basis, at the month level, as well as the day of the month, I want to run on the last day of every end of my quarter. And you just pick and choose those things. You save it, and now the schedule is set. So scheduling much more powerful. One thing that also many of our clients have been complaining is the ability to manage, let me close this one, to manage the steps of a job more easily. In the past, moving things around was a pain. Now you can come over here. These are the jobs. There's a lot of steps on this job. And let's say I actually want to bring my section here, this section here. I want to bring it down. You just select the section, move it down, and maybe you want to bring this one as well. So super easy to drag and drop steps of a job. And if you don't want to see tables, then you hide the tables and you just want to see your Power BI, or you just want to see your Tableau. So super easy to apply filters to see only things that are, right now I'm hiding things that are not refreshing. What if I want to see everything? So I unclick, and now in this example, even steps that were not included will also show up. So different ways to make a job step management easier. All right, and let me go back here.
I'm clapping again. I know you can't hear it because of my noise cancellation, but I'm clapping again.
Thank you, Zach. And the last thing is, this architecture has been designed to comply with very tight security standards. We have clients that have HIPAA compliance or CMMC, government contractor kind of regulations. This architecture, the way that I was showing, has been designed to, if you want to go with the inexpensive, faster, you use our cloud. But if you need to have something that is, tighter security, we can change the Lego blocks in a way that this will be compliant with pretty much any security requirement that your company might have. With that in mind, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint for the last few slides here. And where's my Zoom? There's my Zoom. Go back here again. All right. If you are not a DataSelf client yet, or if you are a DataSelf client and you have challenges, feel free to reach out to us to discuss your needs, to discuss where you are with your BI platform. Again, being a DataSelf client or not, we're here to hear where you are, what your challenges are, and how can we help. Because if we can help, especially with this new version and with the all the new power, the web and the AI, we're pretty confident we're going to be able to help a lot of you guys make your BI journey a lot more successful and faster. With that in mind, I was hoping to get some questions and answers. We only have a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, I'm going to check right now the Q&A section. Q&A section. Zoom changed again. Oh, there is a question. Is Snowflake one of the API? We do have some Snowflake integration, Marcia, but it's better to talk in a one-on-one to see exactly what you're looking for, Snowflake, to see if we can help you now or in the future. We are working our APIs to be like a connector to work with anything that is BI related. And Snowflake being such a powerful platform, absolutely. Snowflake, Fabric, Microsoft Fabric, and the Tableau also data cloud that they have. All of these three major vendors are something that we're working closely to be more integrated. So, Marcia, we'll get back to you to ask your specific questions and see how we can help. Folks, we're running out of time, but if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. We hope you have enjoyed. This has been recorded, so we will be sharing this recording by email the next day or so. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Thank you and enjoy your Friday.